Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Gigi Kopilak and I'm here today because of the Pleasantville Garden Club. We had a presentation by Nancy Ross, who is a master gardener, on the 10 vegetable talk, it was called. And Nancy is my guest today. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. Before we start with the 10 vegetables, I'd like to ask you, because I think it's really interesting, who are the people that shouldn't have a garden?
It's very difficult to garden if you have shade. I recommend selling your house or chopping down all your trees, but that doesn't always work.
No.
The other reason is if you have a deer infestation. It's really, it's painful to put in all the work and have the deer come and gobble it all up.
So far you have described my property.
Oh, well, you have my sympathy there.
But you put an 8-foot fence, and it has to go down a whole foot.
It doesn't have to necessarily be 8 feet tall.
Okay.
They can jump 8 feet, but if it looks like a trap, if it looks like an enclosure, they'll rarely jump into it. But you must fence against deer.
Right.
And as long as you're fencing, go down a foot or so to keep out Peter Rabbit and
Other little
woodchucks and other little characters.
Right.
But other than that, if you have 6 hours of sun, there's no excuse.
Okay.
You've got to have a vegetable
Well, you've
garden.
got to have good soil.
Well, you can improve your soil as long as it isn't standing water. You need to have decent drainage.
Okay. Because what happens in standing water?
There won't be any air in the root zone,
Oh, okay.
and your plant roots will rot.
Oh, that's interesting.
So if it's fairly well drained, you can gradually improve your soil, adding compost, other forms of humus.
So you recommend every year putting down a layer of compost? And
I recommend remembering that what you take out of your garden has to be put back. If you choose to use chemical fertilizers, which I don't and organic gardeners would rather not, then you've got to put it back in another form, i.e. compost, humus, other material.
And do you recommend that you save your own compost, your own vegetables, and make a compost pile? And
it's a wonderful thing to do. It's economical and tidy. You can mix the brown things, the leaves, and green things, scraps from the kitchen. No meat, no fat, obviously.
Right.
And no weed seeds.
Okay.
When you pull out that weed, if it's got a wonderful crop on the top, don't do that. And I wouldn't put diseased plant material in the compost either, because unless it's hot, the compost gets really hot, the diseases won't be killed off.
Okay. And I had heard once you should only use indigenous things in a compost. Is that true? Can you put pineapples and bananas?
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Absolutely.
They will disintegrate just like local things will disintegrate.
It's all absolutely organic.
Yeah. And I had also heard once that just the leaves, mulched leaves is enough compost for garden. Is that true, or do you really need the green things also?
There's a lot of carbon in the brown stuff. Eventually it will break down, as it does in the woods. And the mix of green and brown is just because that's what we have.
Okay. So like grass clippings and brown is perfect then.
Perfect, except today they say leave the grass clippings on the lawn.
Oh,
Acts as its own fertilizer. Yeah.
Interesting. So the 10 vegetables are the reason they're 10 vegetables are because they were recommended?
A bunch of years ago, the National Gardening Association listed the 10 most popular vegetables grown in American home gardens. And I took that list and I made one switch. I took off the radishes, even though they're very popular, and I added asparagus because I wanted it all to be something on the dinner table and not just a condiment kind of item.
Asparagus is hard, though. Don't you have to wait a few years for it to...
Yeah, you do. You start with by planting roots, 1 or 2 year old roots, and you shouldn't harvest until the root stock is well established. It's hard not to, so we generally sneak a
So you let it grow into a big fern
Yes.
I call it a fern, but you have just told me that there's a difference between an asparagus fern and the foliage on an asparagus.
Yeah, there's a house plant called asparagus fern, but the ferny part of asparagus, the foliage, grows up to be about probably maybe 6 feet tall, 5 or 6 feet tall, and the female plants will form berries. And it's a very attractive background, but the function of it is to provide photosynthesis to rejuvenate the roots so you'll get a good crop next year. Asparagus should be coming in the end of this month, last few days of April.
Really?
First thing to come to the table from your vegetable garden.
So do you wait till it's a certain thickness before you cut it, or do you?
Yes, cut the fat ones, the thick ones first, and leave the skinny ones.
Okay, but
in general.
Oh, and just leave for the next year.
Yeah, let them rejuvenate. If a plant is giving mainly skinny stalks, I would let it strengthen.
Okay.
Pick the fattest ones.
Right. And so then the second, would just be random. What's the second vegetable? It's asparagus. It is in no order of preference or anything. This is just the 10 most popular.
Yeah, well, probably lettuces, because we're in the spring now and we're throwing down lettuce seed currently. And it's nice to have a mix of those, because you don't want them, if you had all the same kind and you had 40 heads of lettuce in your kitchen at one time, that wouldn't be so good. So you plant different kinds.
You plant different kinds, but do you plant them at different times also?
You can.
Okay.
You can, but you can't go too late into the season, because once it gets hot, lettuce around here will pass out.
Okay. I always find lettuce grows tall.
That's right. Once it gets hot, it wants to bolt. It wants to go to seed.
Oh, okay.
You let it do that, and it'll make a little yellow flower on the top. And it might throw down some seeds, and you might have a lettuce volunteer next spring.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
If you don't till your garden.
Oh, and you don't till?
No, I don't use machinery.
You just keep layering this compost on top and turning it over? Not at all? Not just? No? Oh, great. Yeah. And I saw pictures of your garden, and it's beautiful. So,
it works for me. Lots of people love tilling and machinery because they believe that's what farmers used to do. But today, some are getting away from it, particularly some of the young organic ones.
So you don't. So I think when you said farmers do that, there's a rotation of crops for farmers. Do you find that you keep putting the same vegetable in the same place all the time, and just putting the compost on top is enough?
I try for a 4-year rotation because my garden is big enough. In the home garden, it can be difficult because you may have a sunny spot where you want to put your fruiting vegetables, and you may end up having to plant tomatoes in the same place, for example, year in and year out, which you can get away with if you don't have disease problems. Once you have a problem, then you really
So it's the disease that you're really trying to stay away from, not the fact that it's taking away nutrients from the soil.
Well, that too, but you're rejuvenating with your compost. But once you have diseases such as the clubroot that would affect the cabbage family, the brassicas, then you really want to put those things in different soil.
Okay. And what do you do with that soil once it has the disease in it?
Well, then you plant beans there,
because it's a different disease? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the tomato family, the Solanaceae, peppers, eggplant, potatoes.
The nightshade.
The nightshades, that's right.
Yeah. What does that mean, the nightshade plants? Why are they, do you know?
I don't know. I know that they're poisonous nightshades.
Oh, because nobody ate tomatoes for years when they were first discovered, right?
There are some poisonous members. The green parts of potatoes must be cut off because they have solanine.
Okay.
I don't know why they call it nightshade.
But I know that it can be very allergic. That I know. Allergic to the nightshade. Anyway.
Okay.
So then, so let's move to asparagus. One thing, you didn't have carrots on the list. No?
No.
That's surprising, don't you think?
I wonder why they're not on the most popular list.
Yeah. Are they hard to grow?
In Westchester County, where we have a lot of rocks, People complain that they have trouble getting nice straight carrots.
Okay, so I think that'd be interesting.
Well, as an artist, you would see that. You can double dig that row and loosen it up and get a lot of the rocks out of it, which is what I do.
Okay, I went off the 10. I'm sorry, but another favorite is onions.
Yes, everybody loves to grow onions. They want to grow sweet ones quite a lot. The sweet ones don't keep as well as the strong tasting ones.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's the sulfurous quality that makes an onion pungent.
Okay.
That helps it to keep. So
you mean after it's picked?
After it's picked. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's something about let them get brown first before you pick them, or?
Well, the tops will turn brown and fall over. A farmer might knock down all the tops because he wants to harvest them all at one time.
Right.
In the home garden, you don't want all those onions the same day, so you harvest them gradually as the tops.
So as they get brown, you take one, but they're all planted at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah,
you can plant them from seeds or sets or from transplants. And there are quite a lot of varieties of onions.
Are they self-pollinators, or did you say something about hybrids with the onions?
No, I think onions are biennial.
Oh, okay.
So they won't form flowers and seeds the first year. Biennial means they complete their life cycle the second year.
Okay, so then do you leave them there for 2 years?
Not in this climate, because they'd rot in the wintertime.
All right.
You'd have to dig it up and bring it in and keep it and then plant it again.
Okay. All right, interesting. All right, spinach. You have 2 kinds of spinach.
I love to plant spinach in September.
Interesting.
And it winters over, the roots winter over. The tops die off.
Wait, the seeds you're planting?
I plant the seeds in September. And particularly the Savoy types, the ones with the crinkly, curly leaves, they winter over better than the smooth-leafed spinaches. The smooth-leafed spinaches are a little better to plant in the spring because they tend to bolt or go to seed a little bit less or slower.
And the smooth-leafed is a much smaller leaf, isn't it, than the Savoy, the curly one?
Not necessarily, maybe slightly.
Okay. So you plant it in September and it winters over, and when
the roots winter over, and then in the springtime, right around the time you're thinking to put down spinach seed, you can start harvesting because they come up nice and early.
So would they be there now?
No, it'll be the second thing that we eat after asparagus.
Okay.
I see the tops now, but they're not quite big enough.
And will they last all summer?
No.
Okay.
They don't like the heat.
Okay.
They will pass out.
They will pass out. Like me. Okay. We talked about lettuces, and so the next thing would be peas, I think. Right?
Yes, peas.
And there are 2 kinds of peas also. You have and you lump them together, sort of, the snow peas.
Well, we have snow peas. We have regular shelling peas, which we can plant, and the sugar snap, the snap peas, the edible podded. Snow peas and snap
3 peas then. The snap.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, but they have the same rules?
Same rules. Plant very early. They say St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
Anytime in March that you can work the soil, it's good to get them in. It isn't so necessary, but it's one chore off of your list.
Right.
And I did actually plant them early in this year in the middle of March, and I see little green.
All right. And do you have a trellis for them to grow up?
Yes. The sugar snaps in particular grow 5 or 6 feet tall, so they have to climb. But even the short ones like to climb. A little brush in there or a little bit of a fence helps.
Right.
Otherwise they'll lie down and you'll be picking dirty peas.
Yeah. And what do you do about the seeds, though? Do you put a whole lot of seeds? Do you put 1 seed in? Do you pull out as they're growing? Because that's the part that kills me. You know, which seed should I keep?
I never thin the peas. I plant them a little thicker than they say. Hardly any space, and I never thin them. They cling to each other and they climb together, and I've never had a problem
Really?
with that. Yeah.
So,
Carrots, for example, and onions, you must thin.
Okay.
Because they don't cast enough shade to prevent weeds, and they can't take the competition of each other.
Okay.
So you've got to leave little space between those.
Okay. So you plant several seeds and then pull out ones as they come up?
Well,
pull out the...
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that the hardest thing. I don't know why.
Thinning.
Thinning.
It is hard. So plant fewer seeds with spaces in between.
Right.
So you don't have to thin the whole row.
Okay.
You'll thin.
I'm not growing them because I have too much shade.
Oh,
but
that's
I'm just
right. You're not.
But anyway, someday when I do, I will remember your advice. Okay, and then beans. The string beans and peas are the same kind of thing because they both grow on a trellis.
Pole beans need to be trellised. Bush beans are shorter, and they come in earlier. You'll get an earlier crop. It'll quit earlier. The pole beans will keep on bearing until frost, and so it's nice to do both.
Okay.
Have some early string beans and then some for the whole rest of the season.
Is it the same kind of bean, though?
No.
It's just, oh, okay.
Yes, in that they are what you call green beans or string beans.
Right, yeah. But but the bush bean is a smaller bean or something?
It's just short.
Oh, it's just
short.
Yeah, okay. Are you a good cook with all of these vegetables?
I don't know a vegetable gardener who isn't good at least cooking vegetables.
Yeah.
Because you have a bounty. You can give away and share, but you have crop failures. Some years you don't get anything of something.
Right.
But generally there's a bounty. And keeping your family happy means you don't want to cook it the same way every day.
Right, yeah. So you find, though, that you usually are having one vegetable for weeks at a time, and then do you freeze any?
I do. I can them and I freeze them. But we eat asparagus every meal during the 6 to 8 weeks of harvest.
I think it's great.
And it's remarkably wonderful. You grow for the taste of it.
Right,
and
right.
You don't need this all year round coming from California.
Right, that's true, that's true. So another vegetable on this list is cucumbers. Yeah, and we have some beautiful pictures are these from your garden, these pictures, this cucumber?
The cucumber flower with the bee in the center is from my garden, and
the pollinator, which we have to be really careful about bees. We should be encouraging bees.
We should.
Yeah, because they're in trouble.
That's correct.
Yeah. Any secret with the cucumbers?
Well, there is a disease called bacterial wilt. And if your cucumber vine just fails before you get any crop, it's possibly bacterial wilt. There are other things. But this makes a case for a hybrid.
Okay.
Sometimes, there's a lot of emphasis today on heirloom vegetables, but sometimes you can make a case for hybrids if you're looking for disease resistance, for example. And
so you would go to buy a seed, and you would look for the word hybrid?
You would look for resistance to the disease that you think you have.
Okay, and how would you find out what disease you had?
You can take a sample to Cornell Cooperative Extension.
Okay.
And have experts look at it.
Okay, and they'll know, huh?
And
that's great.
They'll know.
Cooperative Extension in Valhalla on Legion Drive for Westchester.
That's right. And if necessary, if it's a rare, exciting problem, it'll go up to Cornell.
Oh, that's interesting.
They'll send it further for
do more study on it.
Investigation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, and zucchini, that's one of my favorite, because not many people know about the flowers.
Oh, a little sex education.
Yeah, sex. I never knew that there was a male and female, but I know about eating them. That's the only thing.
The male flower is on a straight, thin stem. The female flower has a little embryo zucchini at the base of the flower, which will develop into the zucchini fruit. If you want the flowers for stuffing, take the male ones off and you won't sacrifice.
Oh, can you tell before the fruit comes out that it's the male?
If you look closely, you will see that young zucchini shape at the base of the female flower. Same with cucumbers.
Oh, no kidding. But you don't eat the cucumber flower, do you?
You could.
Really?
You can eat the whole plant of these cucurbits. In parts of Africa, they actually do eat the leaves and stems and young shoots of the squash family.
Oh, is the cucumber a squash family?
They're
really?
Cucurbits.
Oh, I didn't know that. So is that true of all vegetables? You can eat the whole plant? No.
No.
No, you can't eat tomato leaves or...
No, it isn't advised. Every once in a while you'll read about some odd chef putting something in something, but the gardeners say,
no.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and that's a nightshade plant, so maybe that's part of the poison.
Green parts, for example, you don't eat potato green parts.
Right.
So it would be the same.
Yeah, but what other, you can't eat the asparagus leaves, the foliage.
You probably could. I don't know what it would taste like. Pea shoots.
Well, maybe make a soup out of it.
Perhaps.
I don't know. I'm just making this up as we're going on. Oh, maybe.
I've never tried, but theoretically, that's edible.
Okay. And peppers was interesting when I found out that's the only plant that you can freeze without cooking first.
Yeah, the pepper has a nice waxy coating on it, and you, of course, have washed it, but you can just slice them or cut them any way you like and freeze them without blanching. Blanching is necessary for most vegetables because it removes the surface bacteria that would lead to disintegration
even though it's frozen, the bacteria will still grow even though it's frozen.
Not probably while it's frozen, but once it's
once it comes out, and then it gets all wilty and everything.
So,
yeah.
Well, everything will wilt. Everything, the ice crystals will essentially destroy the tissues of most vegetables. So you
blanch it first, so that you're going to cook it afterwards.
You won't have the texture.
Even in a pepper, you won't have the texture?
No.
Oh, so you wouldn't use it in a salad after you've frozen it? You
can use it in a salad, but you're not going to have the extreme crunch.
Okay. So, and then number 10.
America's favorite.
Is it?
The tomato.
The tomato.
There's no doubt that that's the most popular vegetable to grow.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it the easiest, maybe? Because you can grow it in a pot, and you can grow it in a... No?
I don't know what would be a scale of easiness. I'd have to think about that.
Maybe it's longest lived? It lasts the whole season?
They do, but other things do too.
Okay.
I think it's popular because we just like to have them in our sandwiches.
Yeah,
and
true.
Salads. And there are tremendous numbers of
varieties. Yeah, different kinds of tomatoes that you can and lately the heirloom tomatoes are all different colors.
And this is where people do cherish the heirlooms and save seed every year of their favorite. And in doing so, you may even be developing something that's especially appropriate to your microclimate.
Oh, interesting.
If you choose your earliest tomato every year and save the seed.
Is there a secret to saving seed? Do you have to wait until the fruit rots on the vine?
No, if it's perfectly ripe and you're slicing it for a sandwich, and you say, this is the best tomato I ever had, save those seeds, put them in a little jar with some water for a day or 2 or 3, and the pulp will separate from the seeds. The viable seeds will sink to the bottom.
Okay.
Pour off the pulp and the liquid, dry the seeds thoroughly, preferably on a plate or something, not paper towel, not something they would stick to.
Oh, okay, good voice.
And save them in a dark, cool, dry place once they're completely dry, and plant them the following year.
Very interesting. And so and you will get something. They're not.
If it's an heirloom, which means open pollinated. You will get what you had before.
What does that mean, open pollinated?
It means bees do it, and
Okay.
it will be true to the parent. It doesn't require hybridization, which in the lab
They do it themselves. They fertilize for you.
they run around with a paintbrush and so forth,
Right.
and they cross female and male parents to achieve a certain result.
Okay.
Commercially, it's because they want a vegetable that will travel well, have a
Right.
thick skin, have a long shelf life. But in the home garden, those things are not necessary. So tomatoes are a real case for choosing heirlooms, open pollinated varieties.
Do you know it's open pollinated just because it made the fruit, or is that how you know?
If you happen to take the seeds of a hybrid
Right.
and plant them out, they will grow. You will not get 100% the same as the parent.
Okay.
You will get according to Gregor Mendel's formulas, you will get a certain percent, 25 like the mother, 25 like the father, 50 in between, and going either way, and so
But that's only with a hybrid. With a regular tomato that you've planted from a seed, you can, after it's made its fruit, you know that it's pollinated and you can make a seed. You can grow that again. Just a couple of days in water and then dry them out, and then I'm not doing this. Okay. You brought a couple of other images which I'd like to talk about because we have about 3 more minutes. Watermelon?
Well, yes, I was very proud of that because last year in 2010 we had the hottest, driest summer that I can recall. Mother Nature was making up for 2009, which was the coldest, wettest summer we remember.
That was when the puddles were all over the garden.
And a watermelon is not easy to grow.
Oh, it's
here. Not? Unless you choose the small ones. No, those great, big, wonderful things come from places like Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
But the little ones, and especially some of the Asian ones, grow here, icebox types. And last year, they were super duper.
Okay. And could you save the seeds on those also and plant them again?
No, because these are pretty much hybrids.
Okay. All right. And then bok choy. This is such a beautiful picture. Is this your bok choy that you grow?
Yes, I grew that last year, and we didn't include it in the basic talk because apparently the cabbage family, with the exception of broccoli, which isn't on the 10 list, but people don't seem to grow that many things in the brassicas and cruciferous crops. So, but I do. I like to grow bok choy, Chinese cabbage, and other things in that family, just to round it out and have more variety in the garden.
Yeah, and it's great. That's a beautiful bok choy. And but I always think of it as a tall, skinny thing.
They can be, and if you looked, if you had a view from the ground up, you'd see that it has a thick
like a
stem
stalk
in the bottom.
Okay.
That the petiole is white and attaches to a.
But you eat all of that.
You can eat the whole thing. Yeah.
I'm getting hungry just thinking about this. Thank you so much. This was so interesting. I really appreciate your coming and giving us this talk.
It's a great hobby, and it gives a lot of joy.
Sure it does. That's great. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for watching.